welcome to this special broadcast. The world's leaders are going to congregate here at the United Nations as the General Assembly convenes. On India's agenda will firmly be the issue of terrorism and Pakistan as a perpetrator of that terrorism. A reinforcement of that came today in the Kashmir Valley with one of the worst terror strikes on an army camp in years. We have seen 17 soldiers martyred and that number could rise. We are seeing many soldiers injured at the army base hospital in Srinagar. Uri, of course, is a garrison town. It is near the line of control, and we believe this to be a recent infiltration. We are seeing strong words from the Prime Minister, who is telling the country that the attackers will be punished. In fact, Home Minister Rajnath Singh has already directly blamed Pakistan and said that he is extremely disappointed with Pakistan's direct support, continued support for terrorism. And we are seeing Mehbooba Mufti, the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir, talk about this attack creating warlike situations in the Kashmir Valley. All right, as we focus on how the world will respond, the United States ambassador has already condemned this attack, standing fairly squarely on the side of India. But let's first go across straight to Srinagar, where my colleague Sudhir Ranjan Sen joins me. Sudhir, we have seen a statement from the Director General of Military Operations. The Jaish-e-Mohammed is being blamed. Foreign terrorists are being squarely blamed. We know that the attack took place between 5:30 and 8:30 a.m. That 4 of the terrorists have been eliminated. But after Pathankot, now the Jaish-e-Mohammed being blamed for this. Are we seeing A, the return of the Fidayeen squads, and B, this was really one unit handing over to the other? Most of the casualties, in fact, took place as soldiers were sleeping. The most cowardly thing, sleeping soldiers attacked with grenades that then made the tents catch fire. What are the details you have on the ground?
Well, the details on the ground is that, as hours go by, the military and the intelligence agencies are gathering together or putting together the list, that directly point towards Pakistan. Now, these include, what my sources are indicating, these include the weapons that they have found. They have found 4 AK-47s, the under-barrel grenade launchers, the grenades with Pakistani markings. A lot of food that was carried is actually, it clearly says packaged in Pakistan. Stores that clearly indicate that these stores had been picked up from Pakistan. Now these are being, put aside, taken stock of, because my sources are indicating that this at a later date will strengthen India's hands and India's narrative, so to say, that Pakistan is directly behind this attack. Also, they have recovered GPS devices from the terrorists. Those have been sent for analysis, and the exact route that had been taken by the terrorists is being worked out even as we speak. Barka.
Sudhi, before we go to Nazir, who is on the ground in Uri, we are seeing a very different response, and absolutely understandably so, from the government this time. After Pathankot, we even saw the Pakistani investigators being allowed to visit contentially the airbase where the attack had taken place. At that time, the word in the government was that some sections of the Pakistani establishment had in fact shared intelligence with the Indian side. This time, we are actually seeing from the very top, from the Prime Minister, a talk of retaliation, of not letting the attackers go unpunished. What are army sources saying to you on the ground? We know the army chief is there, we know the defense minister is there, we know the home minister is headed there as well.
Well, Barka, there's a complete silence as to how we are going to respond. And it's justifiable, because we would not want to give out our response, what the response would be. It's completely quiet. But one of the sources I was speaking to did indicate that all options are open. He said there would be a diplomatic, an onslaught against Pakistan. The evidence collected would be there. Apart from that, I don't think the government has ruled out any option in front of it. Barka.
Let's go across to Nazir Masoodi. Nazir is my colleague on the ground in Uri, where this terror strike has taken place. Remember, this is one of the worst terror strikes on the army in years and years. In fact, perhaps the only terror strike in which there were more casualties was the one that took place on an army residential camp in Kaluchak. And at that time, most of those who had died were family members of soldiers. In my memory of covering Jammu and Kashmir, Nazir, this is a strike that has claimed the maximum number of soldiers' life in one single strike. And very, very tragically, most of the casualties took place as soldiers were sleeping in their tents. This was one unit handing over to the other unit. But Nazir, do we know when this infiltration took place? Our sources are telling us that this was, in fact, a fresh infiltration that could have taken place as recently as in the last 24 hours.
Exactly, Barkha. Here outside the army headquarters in the Uri, there's eerie calm, but behind this calm is the kind of the losses army has suffered in this attack. This was deadliest attack army has suffered in the recent memory in Kashmir. This is the first time when army has suffered such heavy casualties in single militant attack in the valley. 17 soldiers have been killed and number of deaths can go high because there was some critically injured soldiers who are being treated at army is 92 base hospital. Even the civilian doctors rushed there to treat and operate on the injured doctors. Here at the Uri headquarters, you know this area very well. From three sides, this is surrounded by the POK. And from there are the launching pads of militants, and in last 2 to 3 months, army has filed several infiltration attempts, killed several militants, but this time they could reach so close to the army's this major vital installation here in Uri, then breached this fortified fence of the this army installation, then carried out the attack first with the grenades that led to the fire in the army barracks, and when troops were rushing out, this Fidayeen squad, they resorted to indiscriminate firing. It was when army suffered most of the casualties. Army repulsed the attack and killed all the 4 militants. But before that, they had suffered heavy casualties. Then the challenge was how to evacuate the injured. Then the army helicopters were swiftly rushed into here, and the injured were rushed to airlifted to Srinagar, where they are being treated. What it means for the army, to prevent infiltration, neutralize them before they can reach here. Second thing is how militants and their handlers across the border in Pakistan are taking advantage of the unrest in Kashmir. Barkha, in last 2.5 months of unrest, army and other security agencies, including Jammu and Kashmir police, have not been able to carry out a single anti-militancy operation in the hinterland in the valley because of the unrest. So the challenge for them is how to deal with the situation on the ground, because this situation which creating enabling atmosphere for militants and their handlers across the border to push more militants. I was just seeing a hoarding outside this army headquarters which says that Awam or Jawan, the Shanti hai Maqam. You can protect, you can save the country and borders when people are on your side. These militants, there was drastic, decline in militant activities and their attacks in last several years because people were not hostile to the government and the security forces. For last 20 years, army was running as Sadbhavana operation in Kashmir to win hearts and minds Barkha here in the valley, and that has suffered a great deal during this unrest. Army and security agents in the government has to rebuild that relation so that militants don't get the same.
Nazir, that is a very important point.
That
is a very important point.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I'm just saying that's a very, very important point, that the situation, the turmoil that we have seen in the last... Yeah, let me just interrupt you there and explain this point to our viewers. I think the point that Nazir is making there is that the kind of turmoil, the civilian unrest that we've seen for more than 2 months has in fact impacted inevitably the counter-insurgency grid. It has distracted the security forces, and militants and terrorists are being able to exploit that situation. Sudhir and Nazir, thank you very much. We'll continue to return to you. Now, as we've been saying, this terrorist strike has come ahead of the United Nations General Assembly. I'm actually standing right outside the United Nations. This is where the focus for India is very clearly going to be on terrorism. It was always going to be the case, but now it has got reinforced with this terror strike that has brought home in front of the world India's argument that Pakistan is in fact perpetrating terrorism, and in fact that there has been, as India has said before the United Nations Human Rights Council, there has been an orchestrated attempt by Pakistan to foment trouble in the last 2 months in the Kashmir Valley. But where do we go from here? We've seen some of the strongest words from the Modi government in the aftermath of this horrific terror strike in which 17 soldiers have been martyred. The Prime Minister is promising that nobody will go unpunished. Ram Madhav, the co-author of that alliance between the BJP and the PDP in Jammu and Kashmir, is saying that you now have to abandon the age and the phase of so-called restraint. That era is over, that for one tooth you should take an entire jaw. And Mehbooba Mufti, the Chief Minister, is talking about a near warlike situation created by this terror strike. Let's go straight to our panel. Ambassador G. Parthasarathy is with us. GVL Narasimha Rao of the BJP is with us. General Atta Hasnain, who is of course been General Officer Commanding of the 15th Corps, but has also commanded a brigade in Uri where the attack has taken place today, is with us. General Jaswal, former Northern Army Commander, is with us. Pawan Verma of the Janata Dal United is with us as well. I would like to get first reactions from you, Ambassador Parthasarathy. We are seeing, we are seeing the Home Minister having named Pakistan. Where I'm standing outside the United Nations, India is going to bring up Pakistan's role in terror. We've seen a strong statement of support from the American ambassador to India. But when the Prime Minister says the assaulters will not go unpunished, where do we go from here, sir?
Well, Barkha, there are two dimensions to this, the diplomatic on the one hand and the military security on the other. Now coming to the diplomatic, quite obviously this has been timed with the UN session in the hope that India will escalate the situation and then this will be made into an India-Pakistan tension. This is the political game plan, otherwise this doesn't make sense at this point in time. All I am saying is, yes, I as an Indian want retribution. Let me say this for the first time on TV, I want retribution. But you should proceed with good sense. And the other point is, for God's sake, leave these things to the army. You don't have to have the army chief running to Srinagar when you have an army commander there. I don't think Atta Hasnain as a corps commander would have liked interference from Delhi. They know how to handle it. This is one. Point number two, I think on the diplomatic side, the time has come to send a signal.
I think that's a very important.
Yeah. From the diplomatic side, I think the time has come to turn the screws on Pakistan on the SAARC summit. I think Pakistan has pushed itself into a corner in SAARC. It has 3 members who are not particularly keen on attending the summit. So let us now coordinate strategy on the summit, because a time has come also that we are going to have a BIMSTEC summit in Goa along with BRICS, which means we can manage South Asia without Pakistan. In fact, South Asia extending into Southeast Asia can be managed in BIMSTEC.
Sir, are you calling for a boycott? Sir, I want to understand what you're saying, because you made 2 important points. One, you said there was no need for the army chief. One, you said there was no need for the army chief to go to the Kashmir Valley. But what are you suggesting? You're saying India can strategically collaborate with other countries in the region and boycott the SAARC summit in Islamabad?
Look, leave it to this, as far as the army is concerned.
In terms of SAARC, what are you calling for?
Leave it to the commanders. The army chief has a much larger role in coordinating matters at the highest level in Delhi. So this has never been done. You go to the Bangladesh conflict, you ever go in the past, Manekshaw was not rushing to the Eastern Command. Now, the other factor I want to say is that on boycotting SAARC, that's a decision you'll have to take. Do you want to boycott it?
Yes.
Or do you want to join Bangladesh and Afghanistan, who will willingly join you, and corner Pakistan in Islamabad? That is a political decision the government will have to take. But the time has come to take off the gloves. I think the time has also come to let the army decide when, where and how it acts. And also I think the time has come to stop playing ping pong with Pakistan and get into hardball. Hardball means They are already an embarrassment to SAARC. Squeeze them on SAARC, and also then launch your campaign worldwide. You have to be shown as acting maturely, not with knee-jerk reactions.
Okay.
You know, this the immediate reply for blood. I'm all for retribution, I told you, but at a time and place of our choosing, in a manner which is internationally justifiable. I am sure we have enough brains in Delhi and in Kashmir to do that.
Okay. Now, very important points there. Before I get GVL Narasimha Rao to react to the kind of very, very strong statements and Ambassador Parthasarathy warning against the calling for blood and retribution in public without a plan. But General Hasnain, to this point that Ambassador Parthasarathy makes, that the army chief need not have gone dashing to the Kashmir Valley. How do you see that as someone who's been a commander on the ground?
Barkha, I would like to remind you that's the place where we met first time, Uri, where all this problem is taking place at the moment. And as to your question, first of all, let me also respond to Ambassador Parthasarathy by saying I endorse almost everything that he has said, both the diplomatic side and the military part of it. In terms of response, there can be no question of knee-jerk. It has to be thought through. It has to be strategic. There is no question of a tactical, ego-based response which is not going to get you any dividends. Having said that, the specific question you ask about General Dalbir Suhag's visit today to Uri. Now, this is a matter of choice between commanders and the personality of commanders. If you ask me personally, as the Corps Commander in 15 Corps, I would like to have the Army Commander, Northern Command, definitely by my side. And he would be there and guiding, holding forth, doing a lot of other things. I don't think I would like the Army Chief at that time there. And I do remember that General V.K. Singh hardly ever came, hardly ever visited me in those days when we had lots of things happening in Kashmir also. So it all depends on what is your personality. Maybe General Dalbir Suhag was under a little pressure because the activities in Kashmir for the last 70 days haven't entirely been in our favor. So possibly to take stock and discuss personally with the Army Commander and the Corps Commander, he decided to go to Srinagar and decided therefore to go on the spot to Uri. There is nothing wrong with that. So as I said, it is personality based. Okay. I would not have done it if I was the chief.
He was there a week ago. The Army Commander, the Army
Yes,
Chief was there a week ago.
He was there.
This is for this incident. Let's be real.
But Ambassador Parthasarathy, this is an extraordinary day, sir. It's an extraordinary day. It's not a routine day. This is not a routine terror attack.
I was on
He's
a program.
He's a proactive chief.
I was
He's
on
a proactive chief. Why
I
is
was
that
on a
wrong?
program with you in Myanmar. You remember? When I said what should have been done by a platoon commander, you don't have to have the Army Chief and National Security Advisor rushing to Manipur. Please learn to decentralize and trust people on the ground. That's how these things are done. As I said, Manekshaw never went to Calcutta. And I know Atta is embarrassed on this one, but the fact of the matter is, as he said, he would have liked to have the Army Commander with him. So let's not overplay this. Let's not have television photographs of bureaucrats meeting on official meetings. But I appreciate the Prime Minister. I want to say one thing. I want to say one thing. I appreciate the timing and the tone of the Prime Minister's comment. The Prime Minister has laid it down, and it is now for the others to deliver a policy for what he has laid down. And that can't be done rushing around between Srinagar and Delhi.
Now, I want to get political reactions, and then we'll come to you, General Jaswal. Okay. Now, Ambassador Parthasarathy clearly feels very strongly that the Northern Army Commander, the Corps Commander in the Valley, General Satish Dua, could have handled this situation, that maybe we even seen alarmist or Ambassador Parthasarathy appears to suggest leave it to the troops on the ground. GVL Narasimha Rao, we have seen a very strong statement from the Prime Minister today about not letting the attackers go unpunished. But what now? Where do we go from here? I'm standing outside the United Nations. I'm aware that India is going to make a big case before the world about Pakistan's role in fomenting terrorism. But what is the next step, sir? Does the government have a plan? Because Ambassador Parthasarathy is saying, do not talk about retribution in public. What you need right now is to quietly work to a plan.
Barkha, first of all, our sympathies go to the families of the martyred 17 Jawans. I think they have really laid their lives in for this country, and we shall remain indebted to them forever. As far as comments made by Ambassador Parthasarathy, I think comments coming from people like him are always heard with great attention. I have a great deal of respect for Ambassador Parthasarathy. So I think certainly people in the government are also experienced, and they would also have the counsel of the best minds that can really help in fashioning a strategy. But the kind of incident that we have had today was actually, to my mind, is a desperate attempt by a Pakistan, by a country which has lost out the diplomatic war, diplomatic offensive with India. We have been Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi has been hugely successful in convincing the entire world that Pakistan is actually is a terror factory. It's exporting terror, and it has become a threat to the entire region. So this is something that we have heard these comments. Prime Minister has articulated these views in G20 summit. He talked about them in others fora. So certainly there is already a realization on the global front. So it's Pakistan which is feeling the pressure. It's Pakistan which wants to be heard on the international stage. And these are desperate attempts and desperate times for Pakistan. And despite 2 months of attempts to create unrest, Pakistan doesn't seem to get anywhere, even on Kashmir, on Jammu and Kashmir. So this is more of an attempt by an army, by a country which is frustrated.
I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you, but the question now is, how does India manage this relation? 1, bilaterally, 2, on the global stage, 3, on the SAARC summit. Does the Prime Minister go? Does he boycott it? These are some of the questions. I just want to bring in Pavan Verma here, who's been a diplomat, he's now an opposition leader.
On that?
Pavan, this is the time for the country to stand together. Yeah, okay, complete. Yeah, complete, and then Pavan. Complete quickly, GVL, Rao, and then Pavan. Yes.
No, you see, on the bilateral front, I think for several months we have not had any contact. We have told them that we are willing to have foreign secretary level talks, provided these issues concern POK, provided these issues concern cross-border terrorism. So we have set the stage. There is no question of any bilateral dialogue on issues which do not, only issues like these can be the dominant aspects of a dialogue. Otherwise, from our side, dialogue has no meaning at all. And today's incident reinforces our perception, reinforces our position in this regard. And Pakistan will only need to get isolated and cornered much more in the months to come.
Okay, we will also go to General Jaswal and General Shankar Roy Chaudhary in a moment from now, but Pavan Verma, go ahead. Pavan first, and then General Jaswal.
Well, you know, first of all, I think, Barkha, what has happened today is a milestone, because there is a warlike situation and the fingerprints of Pakistan are not only visible, they are verifiable, and this has happened one time too many, and never have been in recent memory casualties of this nature. We've had Mumbai, nothing happened after that. We've had Pathankot, now we are here. So I must confess with great respect that I do not agree in this matter with Ambassador Parthasarathy. If the Prime Minister himself has reacted by a tweet saying that this will not go unpunished, then it's perfectly in order for our army chief to inspect what has happened on the ground and return to devise a strategy which corresponds to what a public statement by the Prime Minister has been made. Secondly, I believe there has to be a campaign to isolate Pakistan on a terror at a level and scope which has never been done in the past, and therefore I don't believe in restricting this campaign merely to forums like SAARC. SAARC, of course, but in every forum that we can. We have to correlate Pakistan with the tag of being the epicenter of the exporter of terrorism. and this is something we have not done in the past, in a
Yes.
sense, yo-yoing between an impulsive dash to Lahore to wish for birthday and sudden statements of rhetorical hostility. I think what we need now, two more things I'll add. We need a coherent, effective, well thought out, calibrated strategy in order to make the reprisals where Pakistan feels the pain for these kinds of 1,000 cuts it is trying to inflict on India. And fourthly and lastly, I believe the army
Your
presence on the line
Yeah.
of control and its material and other needs should be looked after with far more attention, and it should not be diverted into maintaining law and order and other situations in Jammu Kashmir, which can be handled by our police and paramilitary forces. What I am asking for now finally from
That's a
this
very
government,
important point, Pawan.
and on this
That's a
there are
very
no
important point.
politics.
Yeah.
There are no politics. We are all united on this matter. Please, we want this government to deliver a coherent strategy towards Pakistan and to Jammu and Kashmir.
Yes, I think, Pawan, you make two very important points according to me. One, you cannot lurch between impetuous friendliness or impulsive friendliness and then say now we're going to hit back. We need more consistency in the Pakistan policy. Two, the army cannot be diverted for crowd control in the Kashmir Valley as we've been seeing happening in South Kashmir. I want to quickly get General Jaswal and General Hasnain on these 2 points, and then Lisa Curtis of the Heritage Foundation is joining us from Washington. Ajoy Kumar of the Congress hasn't spoken yet. General Jaswal, first you, then General Hasnain.
Yeah, Barkha, I just want to clarify an issue. What Ambassador Parthasarathy had said, the bottom line, what he's hinting is micromanagement.
Yeah.
And both Atta and myself, we understand that very clearly. Atta beautifully choreographed
General,
the whole answer.
sorry to interrupt, but you're
The
right.
chief has not gone there for micromanagement,
Yeah.
for heaven's sake.
Okay.
Yeah. You see, chief has not gone there for micromanagement. He's gone to raise the morale of the battalion, where they've lost 17 people have been martyred.
Yes.
Nowhere do we propagate micromanagement.
Yes.
People are available at a standoff distance from where they're available for decision, helping, any help required, etc. Otherwise, if you curtail the space of operations, the initiative factor is lost. What Atta understands the same, he's saying the same language what I'm saying.
Yes.
And he has not gone there to micromanagement, please. But there is a trend of others.
Okay.
Everyone wants to come to Srinagar, everyone wants to come to Srinagar for whatever it is. Well, the chief is there. He's being briefed by the army commander. Army commander, he controls the whole area very well. He is there. The corps commander is the big man. The divisional commander is the big
Yes.
man. He controls his battle. There should be no micromanagement, but please don't misunderstand
Yeah.
that he had gone for micromanagement.
Barkha,
Two,
may I
what
just
Mr.
add to the
Parvin
general?
Verma has
Okay,
said,
sir.
I,
That point is taken. I
totally
want to get
agree
Atta
with him on one
Hasnain.
account.
Yeah. Parthasarathy.
Yes.
Okay,
One
Ambassador
little point.
Parthasarathy, your comment has
You know,
set the cat among the pigeons
General,
here.
I am
I think
talking
it's a
of
very fair point.
micromanagement
Yeah,
which
okay, one little
took
point,
place
then
in
General Hasnain.
Pathankot,
Yes.
which took place in Manipur. Let's not repeat it.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
That's my
I
point.
totally agree with you, Ambassador.
Okay.
That was absolute
Okay. General
micromanagement
Hasnain, let's
which
move
is
on.
not required.
Let's
I
move on.
totally
Let's
agree
move
with
on.
you.
There are many
And
more
I
things
just
to
want to
discuss
finish
here.
on one line.
Sir.
one line.
Let's move on, sir. Yeah. Yes.
No, what?
Barkha,
What
General
Pavan
Hasnain,
Verma
General
has-
Hasnain, let me bring you in
Mr.
because
Pavan Verma
one
has
minute,
said-
General Jaswal. One minute. I
Sorry.
want to just let me structure this, sir. Let me just structure this. General Hasnain, 1 minute, sir. General Hasnain, you said on Twitter that you said 10 days ago to the commander of the brigade in Uri that something like this would happen. There was also an intelligence alert and anticipation that this could happen. Sir, the questions will come later. Today, we as a country mourn our martyrs. We pray for the strength to their families. We pray for the injured soldiers to recover. But those questions will come. What did you mean by your comment on Twitter, sir?
okay, Barkha, let me clarify. I think any person who has worn the uniform will tell you that 40 years of service gives you what is called a hunch. It gives you a gut feeling. Anyone can get who's been on the ground there and who's got this experience will be able to put two together and say that it is not possible for Pakistan to strike deep inside the hinterland at the moment. He doesn't have the capability to do it. They've done it at Tangdhar, they've done it at Punch, they've done it all along the line of control repeatedly at different installations. Only Uri was missing. And Uri is an open garrison. They have a road going through it, the Muzaffarabad road. This doesn't have even a security wall around it. It doesn't require rocket science for someone to conclude that Uri is one of the most vulnerable garrisons. I used to always say this when I was the commander there. And therefore, on that hunch, I spoke and told the commander, I didn't speak to him, I just informed him, please be careful, because I think you are going to be the target. That is the only thing I meant.
Okay, okay. Now I want to move on to how obviously a television program cannot and should not determine what happens next. But we have seen a former army chief today saying it's time for India to raise its own Fidayeen. Fidayeen, of course, being the term for suicide squads. That was General Shankar Roy Chaudhary. We'll go to him in a moment. But I just want to get a comment in from Lisa Curtis. Lisa, let me bring you in here because we've seen a very strong statement from the US State Department condemning what's happened. I'm standing outside the United Nations. India is going to really drive home the point of Pakistan perpetrating terrorism here at the UNGA. That is going to be our big focus. How is Washington going to respond beyond the sort of token comments of solidarity that we have seen coming in the aftermath of this horrific attack?
Yes, let me also add my condemnation for this attack and extend my sympathies for the families of the victims of the attack. Clearly Indo-Pak tensions were already escalating, and now what we see is they're clearly in crisis mode. So the U.S. certainly has a role to play here. But what I hope we don't see is just the token calls for resuming bilateral talks. The U.S. needs to get beyond that. And as far as what the U.S. can do is pressure Pakistan to, at the very least, rearrest people like Zakir Rahman Lakvi, Hafiz Saeed, the people who were involved with the Mumbai terrorist attacks. It's a crime that 8 years after those attacks, Pakistan has not prosecuted the people involved in those attacks. Also arresting Masood Azhar, the leader of Jaish-e-Mohammed. It looks like Jaish-e-Mohammed was probably involved in this attack. So there are many ways that pressure Pakistan. It does have I want to re-emphasize what the previous speaker said about ISIS, the terrorism issue.
Right.
And there are many ways to do that. It's clear that Pakistan's goal here was to bring international attention to the Kashmir issue at a time where civil unrest has been racking. And I think that one thing the U.S. can do is step in here and tell Prime Minister Sharif that he must not raise provocative statements in his upcoming speech at the UN General Assembly.
That's a very important point, Lisa. And the other important point you make is that every time things do get tense between India and Pakistan, Washington calls for dialogue to resolve them. And you're saying that moment has passed. That platitudinous response is not something, in any case, India is going to listen to at this point. General Shankar Roy Chaudhary, and I'll come back to you, Lisa, on what Washington could do or what India would expect. General Shankar Roy Chaudhary, what did you mean today? You're a former chief. Everybody takes your words very seriously. What did you mean today, General Roy Chaudhary, when you said it's time for India to raise its own Fidayeen?
Precisely what I meant. Because we are dealing with non-state actors within inverted commas. We are a nuclear power. We are an economic power. We are a military power. Are we a non-state power also? It's about time we became one. Because only a non-state actor, which we keep referring to, will go into an enemy territory prepared to sacrifice his life. No regular force is going to do it. So I think we better start examining our options in the non-state actor field, and we should examine them seriously.
But sir, why should we become like Pakistan, General Roy Chaudhary? We are not Pakistan. We do not use terrorism as an institution of state policy. Why should India, and this gives us our moral place on the global stage, on forums like the UN where I'm standing, why should we, sir, become Pakistan?
Well, I mean, that's something we've been saying all along. We are India, we are not Pakistan. That's a good principle to follow in its own time and place. At present, since we are sitting in India having the discussion on television, at this present immediate moment, I think URI is more important than the United Nations. And I think we should deal with our problems ourselves, since in spite of all the homilies and all the advice and all the good intentions everyone has, no one is really interested. They leave you, the world today will leave you to solve your own problems. Let's get on with it and solve our own problems. We can do it.
Right. Those are strong words. And you are actually right. And you're actually right, because, you know, we've seen platitudinous statements of support from Washington. We haven't really seen you say anybody coming to India's side, so we've got to do this ourselves. I want to get quick political reactions, and then I'll go back to Ambassador Parthasarathy and to all the generals. Let me start with you, Ajoy. You haven't spoken, but I do have to ask you one question. We're seeing the Congress speak in different voices again. You have a Captain Amarinder Singh who calls for a ferocious response, but you have a Jitendra Singh, a Congress former minister, who is attacking the BJP at this point, saying, stop your saris and biryani diplomacy. Ajoy, with all respect, is this the time for the Congress to be making comments like this?
No, Barkha, I think what Jitendra Singh or what all of us at Congress are saying is, as far as Uri's incident is there, we are with the government in terms of any kind of response. What we were highlighting, and we need to understand, is that the army and the paramilitary forces are hugely stressed because of what's happening in Jammu and Kashmir. Unless we are able to ensure that the PDP and BJP government in Jammu and Kashmir brings peace, we will be, the army and all the central paramilitary forces are focusing on what's happening in Kashmir, and that is why this kind of attack is possible, because at the end of the day, the men are exhausted. The forces are managing the internal security. So one is that we need to ensure that we resolve whatever it is, whatever steps we need to take to get the people of Kashmir, our own, the citizens of India, on the right platform to ensure that. The second issue, which I definitely want to say, that on the TV channels you've been repeatedly hearing that we must do this, we must do that. No, like with General Shankar Chaudhary saying, I think it is, you know, there is a very interesting movie which was called Lions for Lambs. It's very easy for us to sit here and say that people should sacrifice, people should go across. What distinguishes India from what's happening in Balochistan? What distinguishes India from what Pakistan is doing? Do we want to get hyphenated by Pakistan and losing all the white support we get? That's the second concern. So under no condition should India ever believe that terrorism or using Fidayeen...
Ajoy, let me take that to Pavan. Ajoy, General Shankar Roy Chaudhary, I asked him exactly that. He says the world hasn't helped us anyway. Pavan, yeah, okay, complete your point, then Pavan and GVL. Yeah, okay, Ajoy, complete your point.
And carrying on with what Pavan said, we heard the American response. What's a bit worrying, and I need to check, is we not heard the Russians say anything on this, what the other international community is saying. So I'm just saying that it is good that the US has spoken, but it is also very important that all the other friends we have had for so many years, they get convinced, they get involved and come on our side. Russia, you know, providing arms so liberally to Pakistan, those are concerns.
That the world doesn't help. Yes, Pavan. Okay, no. Pavan, I want you to say, because you made the point about a more consistent... 1 minute, Pavan, go ahead.
No, the point I was making, Barkha, is that General Roy Chaudhary's point of view is that of his a personal point of view, and he is entitled to articulate it. I want to re-stress the fact that in handling a situation as grave as that which unfolded today, the nation is united. But we want to ask the government in due course that when the Prime Minister himself tweets that Pakistan will not go unpunished for this, what kind of policy will be followed. We are interested in that because we are interested in reprisals and retribution of a strategically planned and calibrated manner actually being used against Pakistan, since Pakistan is completely recalcitrant in the matter of using terror as an instrument of state policy. But my question is, will the government devise a coherent policy? And to that extent, I believe the internal situation in Jammu Kashmir, where we have the frequent situation of the army commander saying that please have a dialogue among yourselves and resolve matters, even while the BJP and PDP are pulling in opposite directions. Here is an army commander saying please have a dialogue, let us do our job to defend the borders. So we are saying to the government, we are with you in fashioning the right response, both on the international stage and at the line of control.
Let GVL Rao
But
take
please, for God's sake, this time, for this time at least, don't come up with an ad hoc, impulsive, unthought out, impetuous policy. We want a coherent, effective, sustained policy against Pakistan after the carnage today.
Okay. I want GVL Rao to quickly take that. The last comments from all the generals and Ambassador Parthasarathy. GVL Rao, where will the policy go from here? Do we know whether the Prime Minister will go to Islamabad for the SAARC summit or not? Do we know whether diplomatic relations will continue as is? I know you can't and shouldn't give me an instant answer, but the opposition, the people of the country are now saying more consistency, please.
No, but the opposition, both the Congress and JDU on the program, is more obsessed with the BJP, PDP government in Jammu and Kashmir. I think they want to simply have political Nura Kusti. They're not interested on a day like this. I expected them to really not get into the mundane politics that we indulge in all the time. But anyway, that's a separate issue. As far as the policy is concerned, for the first time, I would say, Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi has fashioned a policy vis-a-vis Pakistan, where Pakistan is unable to really get out of this diplomatic isolation they are getting into. The kind of the manner in which they are being cornered by the powers that be in the world. Pakistan is feeling the heat for the first time after having tried for a year or 2 years to engage with Pakistan, to tell the entire world that we are wanting to have the best of relations with all our neighbors, including Pakistan. We have now shown Pakistan its place. Pakistan is certainly isolated today, and we need to do more of it. And that is a strategy that will be followed in future.
Okay, General Chaudhary, last comments. I'll start with you. Okay, General Chaudhary, I'll start with General Chaudhary. Sir, you believe Pakistan is not isolated. That's why you're actually calling for India to raise its own Fidayeen. Quick last comments, and we'll go down the panel through the generals, Ambassador Parthasarathy and Lisa. 30 seconds, everybody. General Chaudhary. Yes.
Yes, I just want to make a small point that somebody, I don't know who it is, said on the thing that what does General know? He has not done it. He should understand I put in more than 45 years of service, and in my time and my place, I have done these things. So I think he should keep his mouth shut, whoever he was. And then as far as reactions are concerned, well, I mean, you can have a state reaction. We are having a state reaction, state to state. We are going to the United Nations. We are issuing protests. We are very good at it, and we are doing it, and we should keep on doing it. We should not disengage with Pakistan on the diplomatic or the political front, but we have to open a new front, which is what I'm keeping on saying, the non-state front, and we better start considering it seriously.
Ambassador Parthasarathy, a non-state front, says the former army chief.
Well, you know, General Roy Chowdhury and I have worked together in military operations inside Myanmar, so we hold each other in, I think, reasonable esteem, and I have great respect for him. The fact of the matter is that there are certain things I am not at liberty to talk about. Okay? All I am saying is, and I disagree completely with Pawan, as a diplomat he should know better, that when a Prime Minister makes a comment like this on an evolving situation, he is not going to lay his cards on the table and say what he is going to do. I think let's get out of this politics and become a diplomat again.
Okay.
No,
That's
the last
fair.
thing,
No,
the
no,
last
I
thing
didn't
is,
say that,
the
so
last
don't
thing, last
misquote
thing,
me.
last
That's
thing
the
is,
Parthasarathy, don't misquote me.
calibrate,
Don't
Pawan, I
misquote me.
didn't interrupt you, don't interrupt me like others.
Don't miss.
No,
But I didn't go to a misquote from you. Don't
the fact of the
misquote me.
matter, the
I
fact
said
of the
if
matter
he's saying
is,
he wants to have a policy,
the fact of the matter
let him
is,
devise
Pawan,
a
you're a
coherent
semi-politician, but first a diplomat.
No, I don't teach Ambassador Parthasarathy.
Okay, guys, let's
Don't be
move on.
No,
patronizing.
let me say
Let's
this.
move on. I'm
Let me
honestly-
say this.
I'm
I haven't
honestly out of
completed.
time.
I just want to say.
I'm out of time.
I want to
I'm
say
out of time.
coordinated political
Yes.
military pressure on Pakistan. It is diplomatic element, a political element, and a military element.
I'm going to give 20 seconds to our remaining guests. Okay. Okay, 20 seconds. Lisa, General Jaswal, and General Hasnain can wrap it up. Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah, I just think that India needs to keep the larger picture in mind here. The U.S. and the world views India as a responsible player on the international stage. It views Pakistan as an irresponsible player. So I think India shouldn't sacrifice this, well-built reputation that it has and allow the region to devolve into the
Yes.
Indo-Pak crisis paradigm. I think this is very important and something that needs to be considered when India thinks about its response.
That is a good point. That is a good point.
Barka,
General Jaswal, 20
Barka.
seconds, and General Hasnain, we have to close then.
Barka.
Quickly, please, everybody.
Barka.
Yeah, I have to close.
Barka.
General
Yeah.
Jaswal, please go ahead.
My chief is my chief.
General Jaswal, go ahead.
My chief is my chief, and he is right.
Yes.
What he's trying to hint at is exercise all the options which are there. One of the options he's mentioned. One. Two, what Athra has said is
Yes.
absolutely right.
Yes.
No knee-jerk action, but in this strategic space, there has to be immediate strike, and thereafter we calibrate onto whatever we want to go for, horizontal escalation
Yes.
or otherwise. Three, what Mr. Pavan
Okay, General
Mohammed
Hasnain,
said.
last word to you, sir. Sorry,
we
I'm
have got
interrupting General
fixated
Hasnain.
with
Sir,
the fence.
I'm out of time.
We have never
I'm so
upgraded
sorry. General
that.
Hasnain, wrap this
There
up
is
for
a
us.
requirement to go in for
Yes.
electronic wall.
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes. And we will have a separate
Barka, may I
discussion
come in?
on that separately. General Hasnain, very quick last word.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Very
Quickly
briefly,
wrap this up for
Barka,
us.
through this discussion, no one have ever used the term hybrid warfare. And what we are actually facing is nothing but hybrid warfare. What General Shankar Roy Chaudhary is recommending is an element of the spectrum for hybrid warfare. And he's not wrong in that. After all, if there is a information space, there's a military
Yes.
space, there's a diplomatic space, there is a space called a rogue space. And that rogue space can also be exploited along with deniability. This
Yes.
is what Pakistan has been doing. And I don't equate India with Pakistan at all. Lastly, for those who think
Yes.
that the army does not have a politico-military role, please think again. The Indian army in South Kashmir today has a politico-military role which is very much a part of hybrid warfare.
Okay, that is time for another conversation. Tonight, I will just end by saying that we stand together as a country to mourn the martyrs who have paid the ultimate sacrifice, and to think of sleeping soldiers in tents attacked with grenades, leading those tents to cause fire. That's where the maximum casualties took place. There is an inflection point that comes in the life of a country. Sometimes single events can cause those. This terror attack is one of those, and clearly a television discussion cannot sort out what a government or a state will do next. But it is clear that this is a watershed moment as India brings to the world stage, reinforcing its argument about Pakistan perpetrating terror ahead of the United Nations General Assembly, a horrific terror strike. Thank you for watching this special broadcast. We'll see you tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Goodbye and take care.